When we look at up front, obviously the only change is the loss of Tyler Bertuzzi, the extension to Max Domi.
Noah Gregor.
Oh, and Noah Gregor. They didn't tender Noah Gregor QO. After playing him on the first line several games last year.
He signed in Winnipeg?
I think so.
Gregor?
Yeah. Good for him.
Good for him.
Max Domi's extension. It seemed like there hasn't seemed like a Leaf who was more meant to be a Leaf than Max Domi in a long, long time, just because he seems to embrace the moment. Whether or not, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. What do you think of that extension? How much work was that to come together? Like, do you have any insights on that one?
I think it was a slightly tenuous negotiation because of the reasons you're outlining. Both sides knew that they needed to be together.
Yes.
So they kind of both knew they were never really going to break up, probably, but neither was getting exactly what it wanted as it went along.
Which is a good compromise.
Usually. Right. And so I'm not saying it was like particularly hostile, but it definitely wasn't smooth. And it stretched over a long period of time. It was only after the draft that he signed on the 30th of June. So, I mean, they went right down to kind of the wire where he could dip his toe into the open market, and they got the deal done. I think it's a sensible deal, probably for that reason. Neither side truly got what it wanted. They didn't keep him in the low threes. He didn't get, 5x5 or whatever the first number that was floated out there was. And the truth be told, he got a little bit more than Michael Bunting got last year in free agency from Carolina, which feels about right. I mean, Max Domi, he does a lot for the Leafs, right? I think he's a good sort of, call it dressing room fit, culture piece, what have you. He's very popular among his teammates, which counts for something.
It's huge.
Of course.
He's liked at work. And
personality higher.
I think he's got the ties to his dad, but he pretty clearly once he got comfortable, he felt like
he looked great with Matthews.
He felt like a Leaf.
He looked great with Matthews.
And he can play with Matthews, but he can also be your third line center in a pinch. I think he gives some flexibility, and he's not making a silly amount of money in free agency.
Right.
So
Bunting was 4.5 by 3 years, and Domi is 3.75 by 4.
So it's close to the same money, right? But over one more year.
One more year, yeah.
I know that they were always kind of a comparable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were one of that. They were one.
I just like that Domi plays center.
Yes.
He can do that.
And so it's one of these ones, I don't know how anyone could be that upset about it.
I don't think anybody is.
What do you think of how he announced the contract?
I loved it. What is it? The Wolf of Wall Street thing?
I'm not leaving.
I love that.
I love that it was his face too.
Yeah. No, I think I loved his playoff montage before game one too, because he seems to understand in a very public way what this means.
Do you know
gets it?
Do you know what's funny? And I don't say this as a criticism, but it's just an observation. He's a little bit reticent to discuss it with reporters.
Weird.
He doesn't like going into, it's not that he won't take a question about his dad, but he doesn't wax poetic about it, right? He doesn't play along with that, but then he drops these videos.
So you know how he really feels.
Right. But for whatever reason, and that's totally fine. Again, it's not a criticism. It's just funny. He doesn't, because I think especially last summer he signs here. He actually was, the Leafs do a golf tournament before training camp opens, it's a sponsor event and all that, fans. But we get to speak, the media get to speak to a couple of players that they handpick. And he was one of the ones that day. And I remember everyone was kind of going there looking for him to be I always was only ever going to be a Leaf. And he actually said, I wish I never left the Habs. I loved Montreal. And which was totally fine. But he doesn't always give you what you think that way, but then he shows you what he's thinking. Social media wise.
So the guy that he played with and that looked so good on the first line with him was Tyler Bertuzzi. And obviously the Leafs ran out of money here. Right?
Yeah.
And
Bertuzzi wanted
we
to
know
stay.
why.
I didn't say anything.
We know why.
I did not say
What
anything.
did the feeling think?
The feeling thought,
he felt.
damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. How did they run out of money?
Bertuzzi signs for the same amount of money that he was playing for last year in Toronto. What was the most surprising part about Bertuzzi is he was a July 2nd signing. He probably, had he had his way going into that, was never going to sign in Toronto, and then plays here and wants to stay.
Yeah, he wanted to stay. He makes the same amount of money.
Stop.
The cap went up, though.
I know.
Why isn't he still here? The cap went up.
Stuff. I know.
That's weird.
Thoughts?
Would you be thoughts from Thought?
That's right.
Would you be okay with a 4-year deal if he had signed that in Toronto?
Yeah.
Same deal?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
It wouldn't have been
what's 5.5 going to do? Really, if we're talking about OEL,
What's 5.5 between friends?
Well, especially on $100 million cap, which is what we're headed towards in the next 3-4 years, right?
Well, and now I'm looking at the team okay, so who plays left wing? There's Nyes. That's good. There's a good answer.
Nick Robertson.
Who doesn't
want to
Bobby
sign here?
McMahon.
Yeah.
So we got Nyes, McMahon. Good start. Right, and then like Holmberg, is he a full-time
Dewar.
winger
Dewar.
now?
Yeah.
Dewar's going to arbitration.
Do or do not.
Right.
There is no try.
That's right.
Right.
Well, and I do want to talk about that, but I want to get to Robertson, but I want to talk about Bertuzzi quickly first. He did like his time here. He did want to stay.
100%.
Just couldn't make the money work.
Couldn't make the money. Like he couldn't. This is where it gets awkward as a player. Yeah, you want to stay, but if they're not offering you that, like, can you really leave money on the table?
No, you can't.
And I think that's just where it got to. Like, there was no bad feelings. There's no like, you're crazy for asking for that. They just didn't feel like they could give him that.
Well, he
And-
left money on the table last year too.
Well, he might have overplayed his hand last year.
Well, exactly.
I think he was
left
looking
money
for a
on the table,
longer
like-
term deal on July 1st.
Yeah.
That didn't materialize. Other teams pivoted in other directions. And then July 2nd, it's like, okay, what's
available still?
what's the best next decision I can make? And
And we saw this year, if you don't sign by July 1st, you're kind of screwed.
oh man,
This year was nuts.
Yeah, this year's been crazy.
it's like dog ate your homework time if you
Yeah.
miss that day. Like what do you like say? What's up?
Going to be a lot of surprise PTOs, right? Like,
I guess, but like, what's the best player left now?
Daniel Sprung.
Yeah, Ryan Suter, James Van Riemsdyk,
Tyson Berry.
Tyler Johnson. Like, but it's a lot of guys, and I say this because some of those guys have been really good players in the NHL, but they're at the wrong end of their careers. We don't know what's left. They're PTO / 1 million one year deal kind of guys. So yeah, all the money got spent in one day.
the other big headline, I think, is
Boxing Day blowout.
Nick Robertson is not going to, according to his agent, not going to sign a deal and has no interest in signing a deal.
It's not his agent. I was the one who reported this.
Oh, you report? Oh, it wasn't his agent. Okay, all right. So he has no interest.
I have a theory there.
Don't go around trying to out sources.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Oh no, I don't know if his agent. I assumed it was. I actually don't know that.
No, I have a theory
What?
there.
Nick Robertson has made it known he would not like to resign in Toronto.
Why?
Nick Robertson has made it known that he would not. No, I think that there's a feeling the Leafs have not given him the opportunity he deserves or he thinks he deserves, and that he wants to go somewhere and be a regular NHL player.
And what do the Leafs
In the real NHL.
in the real NHL? Keith in the real NHL.
New Jersey be a fit.
But yeah, I don't think it's about like he hates the city or it's nothing like that. I think it's entirely around his career opportunities, the way things have gone the last few years, and a fresh start might be preferred.
Do you think that's likely? Or because to me, he seems like exactly the kind of guy they need. They need 15, 20 goals lower in the lineup.
I don't think they certainly aren't going to trade him to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got no rights. His only right is not to come to camp, not to sign his deal.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I'm a big Nick Robertson booster, but there's a couple of big holes in his game. He's not fast enough, and he makes some boneheaded decisions in his defensive zone. He dekes when he should just chip. And it's little things like that that are going to drive a guy like Berube nuts.
And he gets killed twice a game.
And
does
it
get-
felt like, okay, Nick Robertson wants out to go play in a regular role, but like you could have earned that regular role here because of how
I
the
think-
lack of forward depth on the Leafs.
Yes.
But I think he would argue, and dangerous speaking for him, but my understanding is he might argue that he felt he earned more of an opportunity than he got. He scored 13 5-on-5 goals last year.
No, he was, again, really
and
good.
it gets to the playoff games, he's playing 8 minutes a night.
Yeah. And with Matthews and Nylander out. But there's a new head coach.
He reminds me of a guy, like, I don't know if you watch him much, but like that Victor Olofsson in Buffalo. Like he's got a cannon of a shot. Like he can score and he can definitely be a weapon in certain ways, but he's like, you don't trust him in every area of the game. And so you almost need to, it's like Tyson Berry actually. And some, like, obviously Tyson's a defenseman, but you almost like you needed to define a very specific role for him and let him thrive in it. But you can't just roll him out there on a top line or something.
Yeah.
Not at this point anyway.
Olofsson had that one season where his shot was like a touch of death. And then, I don't know, just hasn't done a whole
But he could still,
after.
even like what do you have last year? Like I know
Not a lot.
but he still scored like 20 goals or close.
Oh, did he? Huh.
What's the likely outcome here? Because the Leafs need 20 goals deep in the lineup. This guy had 15 last year, and as you said, 13 5-on-5. That's huge.
I think he's likely back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can mend that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume if it really is just about opportunity, give him the opportunity.
Well,
And the opportunity also seems to be there.
Yeah.
For the reasons you're talking about.
That's what
Like,
it seems like.
I don't think it's outrageous to be like one of Nyes or Robertson, they split each of the top two lines. McMahon can play third because he's better suited for that role than Robertson. So is Nyes.
no, it's not like it makes sense.
Yeah. Like I just feel like if
He might not be a
truly-
Berube player though, too.
That's
true.
possible.
That's true.
But
We'll
like,
see.
I just look at, if we're looking around the league for candidates, like, all right, Nick, you want a job. All right, let's look around the league. The Leafs would probably be a top 10 candidate.
Yeah, that's why it feels a little premature at 22 to be demanding you want a spot when you can look from the outside in and say, hey, there's a spot here, and you can just go and earn it in your next season. You're 23.
Yeah.
So,
CJ, what's breaking?
This is breaking news.
What's happening?
What's
happening?
It's all good.
Okay, good. so like,
But there's a lot of crap on my phone. What happened? Oh, man.
Me too, actually.
is there?
Did we miss anything?
I hope.
Doesn't look like it. No,
Okay.
not news wise.
I'm glad you're checking.
I am. I got Twitter open just in case. But so I guess that kind of brings us to this. What is going to be a success for this team? How do we, because we're going to be watching for 82 games and then we'll get to the playoffs. We can't do what we did a couple years ago, which is none of this matters until the playoffs. There has to be some stakes this year. What do the Leafs under Berube need to show in the first, say, 2 months before we get to American Thanksgiving with that, that noted playoff cutoff that people always talk about? What does the first 2 months of this team look like where we go, okay, there's some change in the air here?
Well, old U.S. Thanksgiving is now like January 10th. So the way the schedule has been moved.
Yeah, so true. So true.
So you got to wait till winter solstice. No, I don't know what they can show us in the regular season. They've been a really good team in the regular season.
they've been one of the most successul regular season teams in the last 5 years.
I think if you look at it, they're like fifth most in wins and points combined over those. Like they've been an objectively elite team in the regular season
And never won a division.
Canadian division.
Right.
They did win.
Oh,
They did win one.
Division.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Then what happened?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Whoa! Freaky Friday over here.
The
Whoa.
feeling and the thought.
They have aligned for a second time.
Lightning just struck the studio.
Incredible. This is incredible. I can't believe I'm here.
Yeah, they haven't won a division. They haven't won a President's Trophy. But like, does any of that? I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Like, it would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think anyone in New York who's like hitting the table for a Trouba trade right now cares that they won the President's
It'd be
Trophy?
nice to have guaranteed home ice advantage, I think. Or mostly go guaranteed.
Do you know the record when they've been playing on home ice?
the Leafs?
Or it's actually really, really, really shit.
I don't know it off by heart.
It's
I don't either, but I know they
It's
won
bad.
1 out of 5 home games, I think, or 1 out of 6 the previous
Yeah.
year.
Oh my god.
Keefe had like it's wild how many losses he had because most coaches get fired before they reach that amount of losses. Like on home ice, I mean. Not saying that to diss the guy, it's just the truth.
Well, and you're expecting on home ice that the coach is was making decisions and taking advantage of last change and all that to try to not have that happen.
His record was like 8-16 or something.
Right, but then he could probably be like, yeah, but look at our road record.
Whoa, yeah, it's also mid.
Steve, you're
Because they keep losing in the freaking
from 2018 onwards. So since the 2019 playoffs, the Toronto Maple Leafs at home are 7-16.
Oh my god.
So that's 1 year of Babcock. And because Babcock was there 29.
Well, this isn't just the coach.
No.
It's also the players.
What else might it be? Oh. Okay, let's think about who's been there the whole time.
No.
What?
Let's not do that.
What? It can't be many guys because that's a long period of time, right? So I bet it's
Steve, so since 2020, if you want to move a year,
Yeah.
they're 6-14. So
that's even worse.
still pretty bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's even worse.
So yeah, I'm just saying having home ice advantage through the playoffs might not be what you think it is.
You brought
Although Florida just won the Stanley Cup in Game 7 on home ice after nearly frittering
Blowing
that
it.
series away.
Yeah.
So you brought up Craig Berube and, Robertson might not be a Berube guy or whatever. I'm thinking back, and you're such a good historian when it comes to this stuff. Like you
Not to real history, just to whatever asterisk you're going to say.
no,
whatever.
like you remember playoff runs, especially of the champions. Like you do
Yeah,
an
because I've
incredible
usually
job.
covered them, and so like it's
Yeah.
more seared in your memory.
Yeah, you do an incredible job of being like, here's the beginning, middle, and end.
Like the 72 Bruins, I can't remember what happened on their playoff run.
That was a little while ago. But like, who were the horses that Berube depended on in 2019?
Well, O'Reilly was the big one.
Ryan O'Reilly, okay.
Petrangelo, you'd think.
Braden Shen. Yeah.
Braden Shen. So like, this is
Remember-
what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
But they had like Jay Bouwmeester was playing a big role on that team. Joel Edmondson was the less compromised version of what he is today.
uh-huh.
But like he had like Alex Steen at that time as a fourth liner. Like he was not a horse.
Mhm. That's right.
But I'm trying to what are you trying to pull out of me here?
Well, what I'm
Bennington
trying
had
to
a
figure out.
927 as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Very
that's
important.
pretty good.
Yes.
What I'm trying to figure out is who on the Leafs can replicate those roles a bit, somewhat. You know what I mean?
well, like
who's Tarasenko, for example, and who's like O'Reilly? I suppose you make Matthews.
they're different players. but,
Yes.
I mean, he never had the thing is that Blues team won a cup without anything close to a Matthews.
Right.
Like they had very, very good players, but they didn't have like a singular star.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I look at someone like Bobby McMahon. I could see having a pretty big guy. You know, we'll see how he comes back from his injury, but like I think he's like if I was predicting like someone who could outperform what people are expecting, I think he could be one.
Okay.
I know that's gonna be tough. Last year he had a bunch of goals. Remember, one of them came in a hat trick game. He scored in an empty net.
Yeah.
Like I'm not just saying goals. Like I could just see him playing a more important. Like he started last year not really factoring into the team.
He didn't factor into their defensive structure at all, and then he became like a guy.
Right. But I think this year he could be like a legit, like this guy's on the team. He's an important player.
Mm-hmm.
Where if he got injured next year, you'd be like, uh-oh. Whereas like, this year I didn't hear too many people saying that. I mean, it was like too bad that he got injured.
Well, I was thinking it.
Were you?
I was because them
Once again, the feeling is ahead of the curve.
the Leafs with him in the lineup, like he really tied the room together.
Yeah.
And when they lost him, it felt like the best they could do is be the best regular season version of themselves in the playoffs. Whereas
They need someone in the playoffs to score some big goals, right?
Yes, and no one did.
Well,
nice.
Nye scored a big goal. Like they need a bit of that. Like it can't all be on like the main offensive player's shoulders. Like I'm just saying, you have to win the odd game. Like in the final, Sam Reinhart scored the game-winning goal, but wasn't that his first goal of the final?
Good question.
I believe that was his first goal of the final in Game 7. He was their 57-goal regular season player,
I know.
but and who had success earlier in the playoffs. But like Florida got to the point where they could win because other players had scored. Like remember Evan Rodriguez had 3 or 4 goals in the final. Like it can't all just be the top players all the time.
Mm-hmm. Reinhardt did not have a mind-blowing.
That's not to excuse the top. I'm not saying that, but like it's just the fact. If you look at it, even Connor McDavid, everyone was losing their minds. He didn't have a point in the last 2 games. But like no star player has a point in every game in the playoffs, and no team wins just on the back of goals from Matthews, like the equivalent of Matthews on their team. Like you do need someone to chip in, and that's what I thought Bobby McMahon could be for the Leafs, and I think he is again. That's why when you're looking at the lineup now, you're like, who else could be those players? Like,
Well, I think Calle Yarncroke healthy can be. I like him. He scores 20.
everyone's down on him all of a sudden.
I don't know. I think it's because he's a player that makes over $2 million. That's the only reason.
Did you know
I like
$2
Calle.
million is like nothing?
No,
It's just
In
because
the
of
Leafs, though.
They
Yeah.
don't
Leafs
need
world. It's a lot.
like they don't need to get rid of his contract.
he's got a big shot though, like for a
yeah.
surprisingly lethal shot.
I feel like I liked that line so much down the stretch, and then the playoffs came, and I was like, oh, womp womp. They just didn't do a hell of a lot.
Yeah, I look at this and I think you're right, Chris, which brings us to David Kampf. David Kampf, $2.5 million or $2.4 million. And is a centerman and was Brad Treliving's, I think, first contract extension with the Leafs. Which
Just before the draft in Nashville.
So seems like he probably needs to slot in at the 4th center. Yeah, they tried him at 3C. It didn't work great. Is that a guy that's still here in September, October?
Probably, but like certainly they would move him. I just think for the reasons you're highlighting, it might be tough right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he took a step back last season. I actually think he was pretty strong by the end.
Yes.
But certainly early in the year, he gets scratched for a game, broke up his own personal Ironman streak at 300 or 400 games. His wife Instagrammed about it.
Saw that.
None of us realized he had the Ironman streak until his wife Instagrammed about it. I mean, wasn't top of mind. He's a really useful player. The question is, are they devoting too many resources to him on a team that doesn't have a lot of resources? That to me is like the beginning and end of the discussion.
Right.
Like he is without question a useful defensive center, but some useful defensive centers get paid 1.2 million, not 2.4. And you might say, well, what's the difference in this case? Well, the difference is the Leafs are down $1.2 million player with him there. And so I think that they could move him, but I don't know how many trades we're going to see.
Yeah, what are you going to get?
And it didn't happen. Like if we were doing this in January 25th or June 25th, oh man, where am I?
You're almost done.
July 8th.
But if we were doing this before the draft and everything, I might have said, hey, like that's among the players. Liljegren's among the players they would move. I think Yarncroke they would have looked at too. But now it's just, I mean, if let's say they trade him for nothing, just for
Sure.
who are they signing for
They got to fill that hole, right?
This is the point. Is like
Honor doer.
now you've missed the window to really sign players. So unless you're trading him that'd be a weird trade. Fourth line center for fourth line center, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. I think he's here.
Okay. So let me ask
He
you
just
this.
won a gold medal for Czechia at
Yes, he
the
did.
World Hockey Championship.
What's the best deal the Leafs were not able to pull off?
Marner for Dangle.
Like, is it Matt Roy? Is it like what was the thing that we're like, oh, we think we got this, and then it didn't happen?
It would have saved them more than $10 million if they pulled that trade off.
Yeah.
I think Matt Roy was a little bit of the one that got away. Like they were interested in Brady Shea, but I think it was pretty clear early on that wasn't going to be it. They called on Pesci, but I didn't get the sense that was ever.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Roy was a big target. And if you look at what he does, like if you had have added Tanev and Roy, like that's significant for your top four. Like that's literally two guys that play the right side that really can eat minutes, and not a lot happens defensively when they're on the ice. And we're talking about a different blue line. Like the Leafs defensively, we haven't really hit on this, but like it's been a problem. Right?
Yeah. Lack of resources.
And so weirdly, because didn't you like how they played? I will say this. Didn't you like how they played games 5, 6, and 7?
Very much.
I'm sure you didn't like the outcome of
they
game
were
7.
fabulous. That
Yeah.
little run they
Very
had,
much.
You know?
Very much like that.
Finally played like a team that could like lock out a big game.
Yeah.
They played
We
playoff
should-
style games.
We should base the whole future of the team on those 3 games like we did in 2019 with Babcock.